For my company strategic analysis, I decided to do an analysis of Target Corporation. My name is Andy Petrie, and here's my project. The first question is to identify the subject of the report by stating the company name and its location. Target's main headquarters is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They have 1,799 stores in the U.S., also 38 distribution centers, 347,000 team members. They also have a huge online business. Their customers have a median age of about 40. Their household income approximately 64,000, and 43% have children at home, and about 57% have completed college. So this kind of shows that they attract kind of the middle class, mostly suburban or urban areas, and they used to be set out of Canada, but they recently discontinued all those operations in Canada, but I'll get more into that later in the presentation. Question number 2 is to identify the firm's primary industry by its name, its SIC code, and its NAICS code. The industry that Target operates in is a large format general merchandise and food discount store in the U.S. This includes both Target and Super Target stores. They offer both everyday essentials and fashionable, differentiated merchandise at exceptional prices. Their ability to deliver a shopping experience that is preferred by their guests is supported by their strong supply chain and technology infrastructure. They operate as a single business segment, and their credit card operations represent an integral component of their core retail business. They also operate a fully integrated online business, which is Target.com. Although Target.com is small relative to their overall size, its sales are growing at a much more rapid pace than their in-store sales, and it provides important benefits to their stores and credit card operations. So later in the presentation, I will talk about how Target is starting to allocate its resources to more of a technology base instead of just focusing on in-store experience. All right, next we have their SIC and NAICS codes. Their SIC code is 5331. SIC 53 is General Merchandise Store. 5331 is Retail Variety Store. They pretty much have the same industry and the other code too in other merchandise stores and then retail trade. This industry comprises establishments primarily engaged in retailing new goods and general merchandise stores, except department stores, discount department stores, warehouse clubs, superstores, and supercenters. These establishments retail a general line of new merchandise such as apparel, automotive parts, dry goods, hardware, groceries, housewares or home furnishings, and other lines in limited amounts, with none of these lines predominating. This means that they're not like a resale store. Their inventory only consists of a certain amount of each line and segment, and they don't over allocate in one line versus another. So it's pretty much general, and there's really no predominating segment of business. Question number 3 is to describe the firm's customers and to what extent they depend on international customers. Target's targeted consumers and sales are households and families. They currently now only have stores in the U.S., and they're in the process of discontinuing all their operations in Canada. And then you can also buy your products online anywhere as well. Virtually all of their revenues from continuing operations are generated within the United States, but through 2014, their now discontinued Canadian operations generated revenues in Canada. The vast majority of their long-lived assets are located within the U.S., and With online sales, they only accounted for about 2.7% of sales this year. Question number 4 is, what are the major determinants of demand for the firm's primary product? What observable variables might this company use to detect changes in these determinants of demand? Target, along with a lot of their competitors in this industry, all pretty much have a peak season, and of course that's fourth quarter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the holidays. So they do have seasonal sales, which does affect their revenues. So a larger share of their annual revenues and earnings traditionally occur in the fourth quarter because of the Thanksgiving to the end of December peak period. As you can see in this chart, it's pretty consistent over the years, and but it has been, definitely a lot larger in quarter four than the rest. For Target's determinants of demand, it was kind of hard to just pick a primary product because their sales are pretty allocated along the segments pretty consistently over the years and somewhat the same. There's no dominant category, but however, they all do get affected, and there are definitely some risks in demand. 25% of sales are in households like pharmacy, beauty, personal care. 21% is food and pet supplies, which is all dry groceries, candy, snacks, bakery, pet supplies. 18% in hard lines. This is electronics, music, movies, books, sporting goods, and toys. And then 17% in home furnishings and decor. Some things that do affect demand are household income. They seem to be somewhat of a normal to luxury good. It just depends. In recessions, they don't suffer as much as some companies, but however, they do suffer a little more than their competitor Walmart. But whenever income goes up, their sales definitely increase a lot more than Walmart has seemed to in the past. Consumer preference, this is not only consumer taste, but also how they feel about the company. It was really affected by the discontinuation of Canadian operations because they had to lay off all their employees, which was like over 17,000 of them, and shut down all their businesses. So they're kind of worried about what kind of effect that's going to have on their customer base. Prices of related goods, of course, this is definitely going to affect demand. Target's very reliant on their owned brands, so if they're similar brands, price goes down, then maybe their own brand might not be as popular. So as well as with like their competitors, if they get a lower prices than them, then consumers might decide to go elsewhere. And then last, Target is dependent on a stable and liquid and well-functioning financial system to fund operations and capital investments. In particular, they have historically relied on the public debt markets to fund portions of their capital investments in the commercial paper market. Their continued access to these markets depends on multiple factors, which includes the condition of debt capital markets, their operating performance, and maintaining strong debt ratings. If the rating agencies lower their credit earnings, it could adversely impact their ability to access the debt markets, cost of funds, and other terms of new debt issuance. Target also uses a variety of derivative products to manage their exposure to the market risk, principally interest rate and equity price fluctuations. Disruptions or turmoil in the financial markets could reduce their ability to meet capital requirements or fund working capital needs, which would lead to losses on derivative positions, which would result from counterparty failures, which could also adversely affect their financial position and results of operations. And like I've mentioned before, almost all of Target sales are in the U.S., making the results highly dependent on U.S. consumer confidence and the health of the U.S. economy. In addition, a huge portion of total sales is derived from stores located in only just 5 states, which are California, Texas, Florida, Minnesota, and Illinois, which results in either even further dependence on local economic conditions in these states. Deterioration in macroeconomic conditions or consumer confidence could negatively affect business in many ways, including slowing sales growth or reduction in overall sales and reducing gross margins. Next, I'm going to talk about the observable variables. A substantial part of Target's business is dependent on their ability to make trend right decisions and effectively manage inventory in a broad range of categories, including their apparel, home decor, their seasonal offerings, food, and other stuff. For example, now Target's investing more of their overall resources, including capital, marketing, and product development, to focus on signature categories. This includes baby, kids, wellness, and style. They also are tailoring their food assortment to support customer wellness goals and become more specialized with unique and differentiated items. Failure to accurately predict constantly changing taste, preferences, spending patterns, and other lifestyle decisions, emphasize the correct categories, and personalize their offerings to their guests may result in lost sales, spoilage, and increased inventory markdowns, which would lead to a deterioration in results of operations by potentially hurting their sales, their gross margins, and profitability. A few observable variables that Target has tracked and analyzed are shopping on demand, category roles, localization and personalization, and urban formats. For shopping on demand, they've seen that digitally connected families who love to shop and demand great value are at the center of their strategy, and they're central to those customers' busy lives is their ability to shop on demand. As a result, Target is taking a channel agnostic approach to growing their business and investing to deliver products and services in whatever way is most convenient to their customers. And for category roles, there are signature categories, which, like I said, style, baby, kids, wellness, in which their customers expect Target to be a leader. These are categories that Target has historically been known for and where they're making smart investments and expect strong returns. Other categories play important roles in their ability to fulfill their customers' needs, and by understanding those roles, they will better prioritize their assortment and their required investments. For localization and personalization, the everyday today customer expects their store experiences to be local and their digital experiences to be relevant and personal. This kind of just makes everything easier, quicker, just kind of like our lifestyle now. And Target has just begun to scratch the surface of these opportunities, and they're rapidly building capabilities in these important spaces. And last, the new urban formats. Target's testing and rolling out their new urban format to serve consumers in rapidly growing, densely populated areas. They've recently seen strong financial results from their 8 city Target stores and are very pleased with initial performance in the first Target Express location. On average, city Target stores generate higher than average sales and have a favorable merchandise mix that contributes to their strong gross margins. By integrating digital into the physical stores, Target also offers customer access to their full online assortment. Of the 15 new stores they will open in 2015, more than half of them are going to be the urban format, including 1 new city Target and 8 new Target Express locations. Question number 5 is to describe the factors for price elasticity in the firm's primary product. Based on the analysis, does the firm face elastic or inelastic demand with regard to its primary product? Like I said before, I couldn't really pick a primary product because their product mix is pretty straight across the board, but that doesn't mean that they don't have price elasticity or inelasticity. So, Target has that expect more, pay less, everyday low prices slogan. They like to pride themselves on being like Walmart, but a nicer luxury Walmart, I guess. They do have the matching competitor price thing tool where they have the price match guarantee. Target's sales orientation is to set their prices low to generate new sales and take the sales away from their competitors. And then their competitor sales orientation is to use similar pricing on items that their competitors use. So I would say Target pretty much operates and competes as an oligopoly. I can never say that right, sorry. Which, is a market structure in which only a few sellers offer similar or identical products. Each firm in this market acts strategically, but because its profit not only depends on how much output it produces, but also on how much other firms produce as well. There are only a few sellers. There's really only like one or two companies that are super close to Target that aren't considered a discount store, resale, wholesale. So there is only a couple. A key feature in a oligopoly is the tension between cooperation and self-interest. The group is better off cooperating and acting like a monopolist, producing a small quantity of output and charging a price above marginal cost. But because they tend to only care about their own profit, there is an incentive to act on their own, in which will limit the ability of the group to act as a monopoly, which means they're going to set their own prices and do what they can to get the highest profit versus taking a price that their competitor might put into effect. So I would say they're both elastic and inelastic. They do have those normal goods that are going to be essential to life, like food and paper products that people are going to buy no matter what, as well as they do have customer loyalty with about 1/3 of their sales revenue just in their Target brand alone. So I would say, people are going to pay more for what they want anyway. And but also some of their stuff is luxury because Walmart has the same thing but for cheaper, but Target's quality might be a little bit better. So they do have the more higher quality, but with also the lower price. Question number 6 is how would you describe the market structure of the industry in which your firm operates? How much pricing power does a firm have in our economies of scale barrier to entry in this industry? Previously, I already kind of talked about their price taking or setting strategy, price competition in the industry, so I won't get into that again. But the industry competition is pretty big. The industry competitors are Costco, Dollar Tree, Fred's, Price Smart, Dollar General, Big Lots, Walmart, Tuesday Morning. But I would say their direct competitors are Walmart, Sears, and Costco. All the competitors in this industry compete with traditional and off-price general merchandise, apparel. They are merchandise retailers, apparel retailers, internet retailers, wholesale clubs, category specific retailers, drugstores, supermarkets, and other forms of retail commerce. This kind of talks about Target's competitive position in the industry and kind of how they compete, especially Target and Walmart specifically. The firms in this industry are mutually interdependent, meaning that the choices of one does affect the other, and market success is achieved by individual strategies and their consequences. So, for the competitive analysis, for commonality, this is associated with the number of markets with which the firm and a competitor are jointly involved in, and the level of importance of their respective individual markets. This affects the firm's perceptions and resulting motivation, which is how likely they are to attack each other with like pricing and other strategies. Both Target and Walmart share high levels of market commonality, but although their strategies and target customers differ, they nevertheless offer similar services, which are the discounted products, pharmacy centers, and express outlets. Another part of competitiveness is the resource similarity, which is tangible and intangible resources that are comparable to their competitor, which includes both type and amount of the resource. And despite Walmart's massive size, Target and Walmart have similar resources like equitable brand recognition, similar amounts of human capital and location. However, they do tend to differ in essence. Target's employees are more proficient in project management and leadership skills, while Walmart concentrates on developing sales and retail pharmacy knowledge. It also places a larger focus on product innovation and quality in comparison to Walmart's just pure lowest price strategy. So Target does have superior advertising practices, therefore their resource similarity is of moderate level. And the drivers of this competitive behavior is awareness, motivation, and ability. For awareness is the extent that the competitors recognize their mutual independence on each other based on their market commonality and resource similarity. Target and Walmart both have high levels of market commonality and a moderate level of resource similarity, so their awareness of one another is moderately high. The extent of the consequences of competitive actions and responses of one will more than likely have an impact on the other, like I mentioned before. For motivation, this is their incentive to take action or respond to a competitor's attack, like price strategy or new business opening, stuff like that. Because Walmart and Target both have high levels of market commonality as well, they'll be less motivated to engage in rivalry at the stake of their respective market positions, which means since they are so similar, if one of them attacks, they run the risk of getting attacked back, and which could pretty much destroy them and ruin their reputation and everything. There's nowhere to hide, pretty much. And the last is ability. This is each firm's resources and flexibility. Target and Walmart have relatively similar resources and are both big name retail industry players, which means they do have the ability to tag each other or others should the need arise. So this just kind of shows like what makes the firms in competition and kind of where Target stands in all of it as well. This kind of talks about Target's competitive position in the industry and kind of how they compete. The next couple of slides talk about Target's market structure in the industry and competition and everything. The retail business is highly competitive, and in the past, Target has been able to compete successfully by differentiating customer shopping experience, by creating a more of attractive value scheme through careful combination of prices, merchandise assortment, convenience, guest services, loyalty programs, and marketing efforts. Their ability to create a personalized guest experience through the collection and use of consumer data is important to their ability to differentiate from other retailers. Customer perceptions regarding the cleanliness and safety of their stores, the functionality and reliability of their digital channels like online websites and apps and stuff, their in-stock levels and other factors also affect their ability to compete. No single competitive factor is dominant though, and actions by Target's competitors on any of these factors could definitely have an adverse effect on sales, gross margins, and expenses, meaning that Target isn't like at the top of its industry in any category, but they do compete very well with everybody. Target is dependent on vendors to supply their merchandise to their distribution centers, stores, and customers in a timely and effective manner. As they continue to add their fulfillment capabilities and pursue strategies with different fulfillment requirements, the network is becoming increasingly complex and operating in it has been becoming more challenging. If Target's fulfillment network does not operate properly, or if a vendor fails to deliver on its commitments, whether it's due to financial difficulties or other reasons, Target could experience merchandise out of stocks, delivery delays, or increased delivery costs that could lead to lost sales, increased customer confidence, which adversely affects their results of operations. In addition, a large portion of merchandise is sourced directly or indirectly from outside the U.S., with China being the single largest source. Political and financial instability, trade restrictions, the outbreak of pandemics, labor unrest, transport capacity and cost, port security, weather conditions, or any other event that could disrupt port activities and affect foreign trade are beyond control and could disrupt the supply of merchandise and affect results of operations, which shows that there are barriers to entry and exit. They're pretty dependent on others when it comes to their merchandise and getting it. They're pretty much reliable on their suppliers and vendors to get it all done right. They're not leaders, or they don't call out the price. They can only set the price once they get it. So it kind of shows their position in the industry. Last question is how the firm's sales and growth rates matched its rivals, and to summarize the company's performance relative to the rivals. This graph shows the profit growth rate between Costco, Sears, Walmart, and Target. It is graphed on a 100% stacked scale, meaning that they're all relative to between 100% scale. Following this, it kind of just more tracks their trend versus absolute values. As you can see, Walmart and Target are pretty similar when it comes to their trend, which is good. Walmart still obviously outbeats Target, but that could just be attributed to its size and economic conditions. But Costco and Sears seem to be following the same trend. Just when it comes to the change in the rate, Costco has definitely been excelling when it comes to revenues and income. Sears is not doing those as well, but they did come back from a huge loss, so that is good. They are coming back up for that. This graph shows the sales growth rate, which is based on revenues. Of course, overall, Walmart's on top at the end. Sears, you can see that big downfall I was mentioned earlier, and Target's there. They're not the best, but they're not the worst. But they have stayed pretty consistent. The recent fall in revenues, as well as net income, is from their discontinued operations in Canada, and they had to put money into a separate fund, to cover cost and, be pretty conservative. And also, sales aren't, they pretty much a quarter of their sales are their last 3 months, their last quarter. So that definitely a huge role in their annual data. This slide kind of talks about Target's overall performance. This chart shows their comparable sales, which includes all sales from digital business, physical stores that are open for longer than a year. The comparable sales increases or decreases shown are calculated by comparing sales in fiscal year periods with comparable prior fiscal year periods of equivalent length. As you can see, I don't know if this chart's kind of hard to read, but the year data is separated into quarters, so you can kind of see how they do in each quarter, year to year. I guess the main thing to look at is so far in 2015. Of course, fourth quarter hasn't happened yet, but you can see 2015 they have been doing so much better than 2014. 2014, the first couple quarters, they took a little bit of a hit, but 2011, 2012, pretty decent. Um, but one big thing for everyone to take into consider with Target is if Target's unable to make a fair and orderly exit from their Canadian operations, or if their existing reserves are not adequate to cover their ultimate liability, their financial condition and results of operations could be adversely affected. In addition to further explain this, on January 15th of this year, they announced their decision to discontinue their Canadian operations and authorized a filing by their direct wholly owned subsidiary, which was Target Canada Company, and certain other subsidiaries under the company's Creditors Arrangement Act. During the fourth quarter ended January 31st, 2015, Target reported pre-tax losses from the discontinued Canadian operations, including pre-tax exit losses, non-cash pre-tax, impairment charge, and other losses. These losses from the discontinued operations include probable losses relating to certain claims that may be asserted against them. Target's reserves relating to these matters may not be adequate to cover the ultimate liability, and amounts beyond those reserves could have an adverse effect on their financial condition and results of operations, and as well as Target may suffer other losses which they haven't even established any reserves, and although they believe it's possible, but it's not probable. But if Target is not able to effectively and efficiently execute the wind down of their Canadian operations, they could definitely incur additional costs and cash outflows, which we'll see over, the next quarter, a few quarters, how that does play out, as well as if they get any backlash from customers or old employees, media. Their business could be really hurt up in the, wherever people seem to care about that. But I guess let's just wait and see. But overall, Target's always gonna be a industry leader, I believe. Their quality and price are pretty well matched, so I don't think there's anyone that will come close anytime soon. Thank you for listening.